A warm welcome to everyone who's joining with our television right now for a special and a timely discussion with the Colombo Stock Exchange. We all know due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country, the trading at Colombo Stock Exchange was halted from mid-March. And following an extended closure, it was reopened and the market operations resumed in May. And in today's discussion, we're going to talk about all the efforts that have been taken by the Colombo Stock Exchange amidst the COVID-19 pandemic situation. And also we're going to discuss about the way forward of the Colombo Stock Exchange and the market. So in order to have this discussion, I have a great personality with me. He is the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Mr. Ray Abewardana. Hello, sir. Welcome to the Art Television.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining
Most
for
welcome.
this discussion. And the honor and the pleasure is all mine today to interview you, sir.
Thank you. I'm honored.
So in order to start the conversation today, sir, let's begin from where it was halted. So we all know the trading of Colombo Stock Exchange was halted in March. And there onwards, it was halted because of the strict lockdown measures which were taken for the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas in other countries, the markets continued to operate and they had a gradual recovery. Have we missed this recovery period, and how do you really analyze the loss?
So first, we have to analyze, or we have to visit the reason as to why the market was closed during that period between the 20th of March and the 11th of May. Primarily because first we had a curfew, and the curfew inhibited or restricted people from moving, which in most other countries was not prevalent. The other was the fact that the system that we have here is where we do still have where people still prefer the check, physical check movement, where people prefer to write the check. People prefer to the feel of receiving a check and banking it. So those aspects could not be permitted because the banking was not possible. So people's movements, people could not go to the banks and bank checks. The broking houses were not able to go to the bank and bank checks. So that was a major concern that was taken cognizance of, and we found that if we do, the thinking was that if we do have trading during that period, that some investors would not be permitted or would not have the ability to either buy or sell if they wanted to sell. So this notion of a even playing field, a platform where everybody had direct and easy access, timely access, was all taken note of. And then it was then the regulator, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. We had very much dialogue. We used to, have constant dialogue with them. They thought that their thinking was they have to look at all aspects, including all stakeholder aspects, and then decide. The decision was taken that until they are in a position where everybody had an equal opportunity to invest, to pay, that they would keep the market closed. So no sooner the curfew was lifted, and it was on the 11th of May, we got back to normal trading. So it's not due to a lack of anything else, but it's just that this thing between customer and broker, where the payment, the settlement, the payment gateway was probably the main inhibiting factor that prevented the market from opening during this period because of the strict curfew that was enforced.
Now we are back on track.
Yes, very much.
So along with that, what actions have the Colombo Stock Exchange taken in order to direct the listed companies during this pandemic situation?
So there has been a dialogue with the listed companies. They have given them guidelines. We've assisted them in giving them extensions about the quarterly reporting, because this is the AGM period also. So there were issues about how you could manage the convergence of 2, 3, 500 people at AGMs in larger organizations. So we have looked at hybrids where half of it could be online, the others could be where people gather. So we have come up with innovative suggestions and ways, and we are working closely with the listed companies to find methods of how they can overcome the existing social distance requirements to have their AGMs, and also the quarterlies, the annual reports, and also the guidelines that we have given them in how they could sort of meet these deadlines, because we have given some extensions also wherever possible to work with these people. So we do empathize with the listed companies. So we work closely with them to overcome any hurdle that they may have during this period.
Along with those actions taken, the Colombo Stock Exchange requested the listed companies to unveil the impact of COVID-19 with regard to their business performance and the operations. How was the response?
So that's very good, Ashi. In fact, I think that was excellent and very, very timely, and we have got a full disclosures from the listed companies as to how the impact and what they would like, how they would get about overcoming that, and also what their plans are post this period, post COVID.
Right. Now the market reopened on May 11th, and ever since then, let's talk about the operations and let's talk about the market performance ever since the reopening, along with the participation of the local investors and the foreign investments. And talking about the foreign investors, have they decided only on selling? If we are to talk about it.
That will require a lengthy answer, Ashi,
Sure.
because you have to look at various aspects of this whole of your question. If you have to break down your question into separate segments, firstly you will have to look at the valuations. We were very strong in our belief even before the market opened on the 11th. I myself came out on interviews to say that there were excellent valuations, that some of these stocks were trading at really good prices, below book value, on trading multiples. It was very attractive. So for the discerning investor who had long-term holding power, that this is an excellent time to buy. And although we had, I think, a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, a pent-up reaction on the first day of trading, things stabilized. We from a decline of where the market fell to, I think, sometimes like 4,247, I think. And yesterday the market closed at almost 4,900. So we've seen a 711 point gain in the index. That's mostly driven by the local. So we're very heartened by the fact that the local investors, the institutional, the high net worth individuals, even the retail investors have taken cognizance of the opportunities that are prevalent in the market. The foreigners are selling not because of any issue here. It's merely because what people have missed is that because of the situation globally, these are funds, and funds are a culmination of people investing their monies in it. So when the people want their monies back, there are redemptions, and to meet the redemptions they have to sell, and to sell they have to exit from countries. So it's not only that our country, but we have seen countries in the area in Asia where most markets have declined. Right. So it's a fallacy to take this in isolation. We've been caught in a global, I mean, part of the pandemic and a global issue where the markets are concerned. So Sri Lanka also declined, but I don't think I can tell you that Sri Lanka has come up stronger in the since the 11th of May. So it's a month and a week, and we've done a lot better than what some of the other markets have performed. So there's been a good steady buying, and there has been foreign purchases as well. When you say the foreigners are selling, I think that's also, there's a misnomer that it's only a sale. That's not correct. There have been inflows, there have been outflows. Of course, the outflows have outweighed the inflows. So there's a net outflow, but there are inflows as well. So foreigners do see. So the funds who are new, or probably funds that have excess cash, are seeing the values. So we said this earlier, we said this even, it was a golden opportunity. And somebody, as I said, and it was recorded, so somebody said this is a 1 in a 100-year opportunity for people to buy. I mean, commercial bank at 50. John Case came down to the 70s. Sampath Bank came below 100. So the investor, the discerning investor, used the opportunity, and I'm very happy and I'm proud that we have investors who have who can have the discerning power to see the value in this and to invest. So we have ridden through that. There may be there will be selling as well, but that selling has got nothing to do with the valuations here. It's because of part of the global issue. I hope I've cleared
Yes, that was
Ashley.
a very clear answer. And today in this discussion, we're going to talk about the way forward of the market and the exchange as well. So in talking about that, how can we really build the confidence of foreign investors, since we are still on that line of topic, and how can we popularize the market locally?
Yeah, so it's two questions we're asking.
Yes.
One is from the foreign side
Foreign
and one is
and-
from the local side. I think in terms of the market, in terms of the market infrastructure, the rules and regulations, I think we have a good platform. We're digitalized. So there's nothing new that needs to be done in that aspect. But where foreign investors are concerned, as I said, there's still inflows coming. So I believe that it's a matter of time. Once globally we overcome the pandemic, and as things settle, as people continue, as money start flowing back into these funds, people will look at investment opportunities. They will evaluate countries where the buying opportunities are good. They look at stability, they look at economic growth, they look at political stability, and they will invest.
Right.
So I'm confident that the foreign investors will come back. It's a matter of a decision on their part and a matter of discernment on their part, and they will see the valuations and they will come back wherever they see that there is an opportunity for them to make money. So their investment theory or their investment horizons are perceived on the return that they can derive.
Definitely.
Locally, I feel that, whilst the Stock Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission, we've done over 400, for last year, for example, we did 450 awareness seminars. So we are carrying that out. We are taking it out to the masses, but we need to come up with a strategy where people do see the value of investing in the market, because there is, for the long-term investor, we have to recognize that there is a lot of opportunity out there. So that's the kind of message that we need to spell out. Personally, I'm not a proponent of retail, buy today, sell tomorrow, get rich. That's not in my,
Yes.
and that's not something that I would recommend. If somebody wants to take that risk, that's their prerogative. But my thing is, if you take a long-term view, you can always make money. As we have seen for people who would have bought on the 12th or 13th of May, they're probably sitting on a lot of profits by now. So there is money to be made.
Along with that, I would like to ask a very short question. Now, we have seen in some countries, they have stumbled again after the second wave of COVID-19. In short, at any case, at any given point of time, if Sri Lanka goes into such a situation of a second wave, can we withstand it?
It's very challenging, Ashi, if that happens. We pray and God forbid that it will happen. But in the unlikely event, if there is, you will not confine it to the market only. It will be a challenge as a nation for us, because what we went through this period.
Yes.
It was very trying, it was very challenging. But I think as a nation, we are grateful to the hierarchy of this country for the manner in which they manage this, and to make sure that with minimum deaths and timely preventive action, with good, strong leadership by the president of this country, we have been able to overcome the first wave. So it's an act of, it's something beyond our control if there is a second wave. But hopefully, we are a resilient nation. We have gone through tougher times. We've lived through bombs and war. So I'm sure we have the courage to this. And this is something that we don't believe in ourselves enough.
Exactly.
And that's why I said, even when we were going to open the market, we are a strong, resilient. I think we have to believe more in ourselves as a nation. We don't have that self-confidence, that Atma Vishwasa is not there.
Okay.
because we are survivors. We have gone through 30 years of, so that's more than half of my life. We've lived in a war environment, but we've survived.
Yes.
And so there is a lot of opportunity. I think that's where, if you look at countries like Japan, America, I mean, it's people who actually survived those wars, who really made those countries great thereafter. So we have it with us, but we have to believe in ourselves. So I mean, even if there is a second wave, let's face it. Let's not fear it. Let's take it. So that's the confidence that we need to have. Sorry.
Yeah. That's definitely going to be challenging, like you said, but in a general note, the confidence level we have is important at any given point of time to face anything that comes in our way. So along with that, as you can see, we are in a timely discussion with the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Mr. Ray Abeyewardene. We would now like to take a short break. Welcome back after the break. As you know, we are today in discussion with the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Mr. Ray Abeyewardene. And in continuing the discussion, unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. And President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was asking all sectors to think out of the box, away from the traditional way of thinking. How have you utilized this in digitalized means of market operations?
So we found during this period, as I told you at the start of the discussion, at the start of our interview, that we are digitalized from the transaction to the broker. That whole aspect, the depository, all that aspect is digitalized. And what we found that we needed to square up was on the broker to the client, which is where we have this physical transaction process as ongoing. So we're looking at digitalizing that aspect as well, and that's where probably what we will now do. So in terms of, I think, thinking outside the box, there are things that we needed to have done which were not done. And I think we're now working in conjunction with the Security and Exchange Commission in getting those things done. So if we had some of those things in place, I mean, the demutualization of the stock exchange, the Security and Exchange Act coming into being, there's so many other things that have been sort of piling up there. But we have a good SEC now, dynamic. We have a good dynamic chairman, a good commission. We meet very regularly. We have joint meetings. We're setting up joint committees. So I'm very confident that within the next 3 months, we'll probably have the digitalization process. I mean, they've already set up a committee and they're looking at this thing. So a lot of things that are happening. And as I've always been saying, a stock exchange cannot function or cannot grow or cannot succeed on its own. Yes. It needs the participation of the government. It needs the clear support and participation of the Security and Exchange Commission. And now that that's happening, and we have a commission that is also talking to us, they're prepared to listen to us, and we are working together. So that's very heartening, and I'm very confident that we will be able to, within the next 3 months, if we proceed with the same intensity, the same aggressiveness that we are getting about, we'll see a lot of good things coming out.
As you mentioned, we need the participation of all. We definitely need the general public to move forward. And in that perspective, how can we position, or where do we really position the market to be appealing to the normal, ordinary person? And also, let's talk about how can we foster the education and increase the financial literacy rate in Sri Lanka?
So I'll tell you a small story, Ashi, which is stuck in my mind. A couple of years ago, annually I go for the World Federation of Exchanges conference, which is held in some designated part of annually of the world. And there was a lady who now works at the World Bank. She was there by invitation. She was probably the guest speaker in one of the sessions. And she said that she came from a very poor African nation. But her parents invested in the stock market. And they earned enough money through the market to be able to send this then girl to a good school, to a good university, educator, and today she's heading in a very, very senior post in the World Bank. She's a very matured lady today. So she gave her life story, and that's exactly what we have to see here. I know we have an interest, our interest rates are high compared to other countries, where at 1, at 2, at 0 percent people are forced to go into the equity market, whereas here you probably still get about 10%, and people would see that as risk-free to a great extent rather than investing in the market. But what we need to do is to create a culture, look at market, create enough awareness or do more awareness, not only to people who don't know, but maybe even bring this into the school curriculum, so that people from a younger age, both girls and boys, know that there is something called a stock market and the benefits of investing in these stock markets, of being participants. One, the qualitative aspect is that you're a participant, you're a shareholder in the growth of these markets. The other, the quantitative aspect of is that there is a return. And if you look at people who have invested in the market for 20, 25 years, they made a lot of money. So it's a matter of selecting, having patience, and looking at it as an investment. That's the core thing into this decision. So we also have a big responsibility, and I think we need to work together to create, give people the confidence, the stability, to enhance our offering. We need to show people that the market is a safe place. So there are certain measures that we are now taking, bringing in new aspects to ensure that people, that the credibility aspect is further strengthened, so that people know that their money is safe. So those are some of the aspects that I would like to dwell on, Ashi, and see that we see them through to a finish.
Yeah, definitely. So now talking about the government, sir, how can or how should the government assist in regaining the momentum of the market?
So from a government's perspective, basically the Securities and Exchange Commission comes under the Ministry of Finance, and the Securities and Exchange Commission licensed the stock exchange. And we, as I mentioned to you, we have a very good working relationship with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So that's our first point of meet when it comes to the government. But what I feel is that if the government, or if a government sees the benefit of investing, see, it's about wealth creation. People have forgotten that this is a huge avenue through which people can create wealth. Wealth can be enhanced. People buy shares, they make money, and as I gave you that example, somebody can send a child to university, somebody can invest in a van, that van can become a pickup or be a Uber or a Pick-me, you can buy a land, you can start a business. So there's a lot of opportunities that people don't see that they could actually embark on by virtue of investing in the market and the returns that one gets. So that's the culture that we need to create. So if a greater, I would say, if the government also looks at it from that aspect, we have a strong presence in like a committee to drive this, to look at areas where we need to really finish up, especially, as I said, the Securities and Exchange Act, the new act of the SEC, the demutualization of the stock exchange, whatever other these things that are there. So if we do have that, and with the support, I'm sure we can make this happen. And that's my fervent belief, and that's something we didn't see in the past, but we are seeing it now, because we're now working with a Securities and Exchange Commission which is prepared to sit down and work with us.
I think going forward, this confidence level in you matters more than anyone else, I guess, to take this forward as the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange. And now when we look into the month of August, we can see a lot of activities are going to happen, along with the looming of the general elections and the reopening of airports. What is your intake on the changes which can take place in the socio-political arena with impact on the market?
I mean, the general elections, as you know, is actually as a result in August is as a result of the postponement. I think it was first in March or April and then June, and now it's in August. So it's something that we always knew that was coming. It was the COVID-19 that prevented it from happening earlier. I think it's much looked forward to. People would like to have it and be done with it. So the sooner, I mean, in a safe environment, I think the sooner we have it, it's better to have a stable government in place to give the president whatever support he needs to drive this further. We saw him speak the other day on TV to where he addressed the central bank staff. So we see how driven, how committed he is to take this through. And you could see, I mean, he's not an out-and-out politician. So you can see, like, he's like us. So, I mean, that the commitment and the determination in doing something for the people. So that's what we would like to collectively see happening going forward post the election as well. I mean, people always say these politicians come, they give us promises, and I mean, you go to the village, people say it, you go to any other this thing, they say before the elections, they are godak porondu wuna, but nothing happened, they are ඊට පස්සේ බලන්න ආවෙත් නැහැ, stuff like that. But now I'm very confident this pre-election of what we have seen, and I'll be very heartened if His Excellency continues with that same momentum, has a team of people who have that determination, that drive to make this happen, because we can. There is nothing that we cannot achieve. I'm very confident, and I'm sad also that we don't try enough. I mean, some institutions, I will not dwell on names. I mean, when you visit them, they try to tell you how things cannot happen. That's first they will look and see, මේක වෙන්නේ නැත්තේ කොහොමද? And if they cover everything only, then they say this can. No, that's not the this thing. You must see how මේක කොහොමද අපි කරන්නේ. That should be the thing, Ashi, that we need to go with that. And I think that's so important. Especially we are still in a rebuilding stage. I mean, we are now post-COVID. So let's have people who are doers. And I'm sure there are people with those characteristics who can drive this forward.
Along with that, we have now come to the last segment of today's program. And on a final note, I would like to ask you, how can we really convert this COVID-19 pandemic into a blessing? Or if I say it in other words, to an impetus to positive change? And what is your intake and the outlook for the rest of the 2020?
Yeah, so I think primarily, I mean, whilst we are saddened by what has transpired, the deaths, the fact that it's still continuing, so we are not, I mean, we are concerned and we are sad, and we are hoping that this will go away as mysteriously as it came, that it will go. So that's our fervent prayer. But some of the key learnings from a corporate aspect is that you've seen we've gone online for meetings, we've digitalized, digitalization has happened, online purchasing is happening, online meetings are happening. We're saving a lot of time on the roads. We're not traveling, or most of the time we travel 1 hour for a 1 hour meeting. We've got to travel 1 hour back. So that's 2 hours on the road for an hour's meeting. So now we are having more and more Zooms. We're having team meetings and Google Meets. And so that's a new thing that we probably have realized during the COVID period. So I'm sure it will get carried forward. So that's a positive that is taken. The other is the fact that how preventive measures, I mean, how the government acted so speedily, and this government, how quickly they got to this, and how they made sure that this is prevented. You know how previously very sad, and how a lack of preventive these things, how the 21st April bomb blast transpired last year. So you can see how the transition has been and how this government has moved in and made sure that. So it's a matter of commitment, being proactive, being committed, and also that drive. I think that's what people need to make sure. So I think there are lots of learnings that can be taken forward. Again, as a nation, we have shown our resilience and our ability to overcome. I can see as the market has reopened, we've seen turnovers rising. As I said, the index is up 711 points, within the last 5 weeks of trading, which is very good. And I'm sure we will come out stronger and a better nation post the COVID.
With that final note from the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange, with a lot of hope for the rest of the year of 2020 and for the years beyond, we have now come to the end of today's special and timely discussion. Thank you so much, sir, for joining with our television on this special discussion.
Thank you, Ashi.
It was a pleasure conducting this program. And as you may have witnessed, it was a very insightful and educative session. So hope to see you again with another such session. Thank you so much for joining with us.